Okay, everybody, Hafaday, I'm Jason Salas here, joined by a very special guest to our show and to our island, Dr. Nam Kim from the University of Wisconsin at Madison. Go Badgers!
Go Badgers, yes. Jason, thank you so much.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for your presence here, Doc. And your story is amazing because the good doctor has joined us on the island here because he is a study of anthropology and your own family fled Vietnam when Saigon fell.
That's
and
right.
you have now come back to actually share with us the amazing memories that you have, but also solicit from our community people that may have of those things so that you can do your work and essentially connect history.
Right, that's right. Thank you so much. It's a privilege to be here and to be speaking with you. So as you mentioned, my family and I left Vietnam April 29, 1975. This was the day before the city was taken. We fled by a helicopter off the rooftop of the USAID building and got out. I was only a year old at the time, so I don't remember any of this, but we left Saigon. We went through different vehicles all the way out to the coast, and we landed on the USS Midway. That took us to a different ship, eventually took us to the Philippines, and then we were brought to Guam. So we were here in May and June of 1975 as part of Operation New Life. Mm-hmm. In the last 10 years or so, I've been documenting my parents' family histories, their respective origin stories in Korea as well as in Vietnam. So I have mixed ancestry. My father is Korean, my mother is Vietnamese. But in doing this research, one pivotal episode of their life histories would be our time spent here. And that got me reading about the history of Operation New Life and about Guam. And I came across a book by an author by the name of Nghĩa Vo. I got in touch with him because he had written a book about Vietnamese refugees in Operation New Life. And he put me in touch with some folks on the island. And this includes Max Ronquillo with the Guam Philharmonic Foundation, as well as one of our mutual colleagues, Professor Evan Le Espiritu Gandhi, who's at UCLA. The two of them had actually put together an exhibit, an event just a couple years prior, Remembering Saigon.
Yep.
So as a result of these connections, I started to find people here, and I came for the first time a year ago.
Now, by definition, they call it Operation New Life, but many of these stories have surfaced over the past few years. But I mean, for you, it's not just an operation. Obviously, this is your story, the story of your family. You've got some pictures. Would you mind sharing those with us?
Because I'd be happy to.
And as you said, you were an infant at the time, and you were probably too young to remember this and everything. But how does it feel to actually, to look at these moments in time captured, and then to be able to, to look back?
It's surreal. It's surreal to be here. It's really a privilege to be able to come back to our first point of our first destination, leaving Vietnam. And when you say Operation New Life, yes, it was an operation that was instrumental in helping people to leave chaos and start over, essentially. But the operation set us up for our new foundation, for our adopted homeland. So getting out of Vietnam, but going into the unknown, essentially, but getting to that life because of all the efforts, not just of the folks involved with the operation, but all of the people along the way. And this includes many local Guamanians that helped to run the operation, that volunteered at the camps. So for us, this is a matter of being here to also express our gratitude. So this is an image that my father took, actually. So this is my mother and me, probably April 29th, April 30th, right off the coast of Vietnam. We're already on one of the ships. He had his camera bag with him when we evacuated. So he was able to snap photos along the way of our journey.
And it's so interesting, if I may, Doc, because your mother is looking off into the distance, saying, as you said, we're getting away from the chaos, from that. I'm doing this for my family. You're but a baby, and you're just kind of looking out at the water.
I'm oblivious to whatever's happening.
Yeah, it's an amazing image.
I know from speaking with my parents and hearing their stories that some of the feelings and the emotions and thoughts that were going through them as this was transpiring. And I'm guessing what she might be thinking at this moment is part of what she's described to me is this feeling of melancholy because she's leaving her homeland. Not only is she leaving her ancestral homeland, she's leaving back family, her parents, her siblings, without any knowledge of what's going to happen to them once we leave. And this is us going out into the void, not knowing where we're going to end up. And so my suspicion is all of that is sort of flowing through her head is in this image.
It's immeasurable courage and bravery to make that decision to do that, but obviously, for your family.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm sure there are many stories of different families making similar kinds of decisions as they contemplate this massive dislocation, displacement. So this is one image. I can show some more.
Please.
So this is an image. We landed on the USS Midway aircraft carrier, but then we were transferred to other vessels. This is one of the vessels that we were on. My father took this image. You can just see the mass of life, the overcrowded conditions, and then more people coming on these barges to join us on these ships. And there are makeshift camps on the ships. This is an image of us now having reached Guam. So this would be at Oroti Point. And this is the tent city as things were still getting set up. People were waiting. There's my mother and me at the time. They described to me that we were essentially always ready to go. So even though we had gotten to this safe haven, we didn't fully unpack things. We always had, every day was spent just kind of waiting in line for things, for services or food, but also waiting for our number to be called to know, are we being moved to a different location or are we potentially being moved off island?
And entrusting your lives literally in the hands of strangers who would
absolutely
say, we have something for you, or this is where you might, we're sending you to go for safety.
Right. Absolute strangers. Absolute strangers. So I can't stress enough just the gratitude that we have.
And that's part of your work because you are trying to reconnect with, with other people who have similar stories that did flee Vietnam, or people that may have been involved
That's right.
the strangers essentially.
That's right. So I want to, before I talk about that project, I want to share something very quickly.
Sure.
This is an image. All of these photos have me and my mother because my dad was taking those photos. This is the only image that we have of him, actually, during the Exodus. So there's me, there's my father, and this is aboard the USS Midway, the aircraft carrier. And the only reason I have this photograph is about a year and a half ago, I was doing research about the USS Midway and its role in Operation New Life. I realized that the Midway is now parked right off the coast of San Diego. It has a museum and has a library. I contacted the librarian and I asked if they had any reports or archival materials that I could take a look at. He directed me to a website that's run by someone out of Minnesota, I believe. And on the website are images of the Midway throughout the course of American history. I found the section that was Operation New Life. I started clicking through the thumbnails, just hoping that maybe I'd catch a glimpse of something related to us. And then this image popped up. The caption said nothing about us. It just simply said refugees in the hangar, Operation New Life. But I recognized myself and my father from that photo. And it got me thinking. I was shocked to have found it. I don't know what the odds would be to find something like that. But if we were able to find something like this, just floating around, how many other artifacts, stories, how many other materials are still out there, whether it's related to our family or to other families?
Yeah, pictures, documents,
everything.
Perhaps even video, maybe.
Absolutely. So this essentially takes us to the project that we're collaborating on. We have funding to now embark on a 2-year project to do anthropological research related to Operation New Life. So we would like to reconstruct as much of the camp life and the events as possible, but not just for the sake of identifying those aspects of New Life, but to place it within a larger context of refugee stories, stories of resilience, stories of resettlement. And involved in that study then would be a component that is archaeological. We would like to explore some of the former campsites to see if there are ways to recover materials. But part of it also is to collect stories from families who might have any kind of connection to Operation New Life. And this would include either former refugees, their family members, or anyone else who might have served during those operations. Local Guamanians, volunteers, military personnel, and so forth.
So that is the call to action. We want everybody to get involved with the doctor's quest and everything, because it's so worthwhile. And I mean, obviously, as an anthropologist, as someone who studies the migration of people, across the planet and everything, I mean, this is in no way, just a research project for you. I mean, truly a labor of love.
It is. It is. It's a labor of love. It's also I would call it familial obligation. So this is a request that my parents have made of me from a young age to document their stories, our life histories, our family history, and to share that. You know, one of the things that I'm very thankful for is my parents have never been shy about describing these stories. I know there's a lot of pain, there's a lot of trauma that comes with these stories, but they've always insisted that their children know and understand these histories, the good and the bad. And so that's what I'm hoping, is that there are others that might be inspired to bring forward their stories or their memories about this important episode, which I would consider a part of global history, not just local Guamanian history or American history. This is really a global event because
Absolutely.
we have 100,000 plus people moving through Guam at that time.
Yeah, and as I said, we at KUM, we've been actually like delightfully surprised, I guess is the right word to say it, of the number of people who have come forward and say, I've got a story to tell about a refugee I know. There's at least 2 physicians that I've interviewed over the last couple of years that they were refugees, and you know, they want to share the journey of their family and what they went through and you know, where they've wound up.
Yeah, I've been slowly meeting people. I've had the good fortune of meeting great people so far who have shared that they have some connection. Some of them are more direct or more indirect than others. But all of these stories and the kinds of materials that people might have would be of interest to us. And we are planning over the next year or so to organize events, community gathering events, workshops that would invite people, the local community, to come forward and to participate, even if it's just being a fly on the wall and hear about these stories as we're sharing them, or to potentially participate even further.
Well, we as Guamanians, you know, we realize the importance of documenting history and connecting ourselves to, you know, the broader, as you said, the global community. So how can people get in contact with you if they have something to share, or even if they want to like share some sort of, you know, like a oral testimony of like something I was told, or you know, someone I'm related to?
Right. So they can start with an email to info@guamphilharmonic.org. They can also get in touch with me directly. My information is at the University of Wisconsin-Madison Department of Anthropology. So my bio is there, my contact information is up there as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess final question is the most obvious is, you can't tire doing this work. You are going to continue to research, to investigate, you know, to inquire and everything. Like, at what point will you be satisfied, or if at all, like, you know, with what you've been able to find?
I think there's satisfaction along the way. There's no question about that. But I also think that there is no end for this project. In my mind, it's one thing to be able to raise awareness around this very important historical episode, but the lessons we learned from that can be replicated and shared beyond just the Cold War, beyond the Vietnam conflict. We can talk about refugee migration and displacement that's ongoing in the world today. The sad part about it is we still have war, we still have conflicts that are happening, and people are still being displaced. So to the extent that we can learn the best lessons from these experiences and try to share them with other communities that are experiencing these kinds of transitions, where we have newcomers coming in and people are not sure about how best to help them, perhaps the lessons we can learn from the experience in Guam can help shape those lessons in the future.
Absolutely, and perhaps for some people that don't know their connection to where they came from and everything, like a sense of peace and a sense of healing.
That's right. That's right. I hope that this would also inspire people who don't know that much about their heritage to become not only curious, but to know there are ways to do this. There are very easy ways to start doing it.
All right. Well, as they say, many hands make light work. And Doc, thank you for. Certainly, you're not the first person to begin this project, but the latest to actually come forward. And you know, we as Guamanians, we absolutely want to help you out in your work, and we'll do all we can to find what we can.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you very much. And half a day, and
Half a day.
And we're glad to have you on board.
Thank you.